The 20th Pokémon movie was not a good way to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the anime series. It had a terrible story that tried to combine a summary of the anime and an original plot and failed miserably, flat and underdeveloped characters all around, and the rivals/antagonists were incredibly flat or uninspired. And for a 20th anniversary film, that is inexcusable. After that point, we got the trailer for the next Pokémon movie, and it looked okay, but as more and more material came out for it, the more agitated and negative I became towards it, thinking it would be just as bad as the last film. So this week, I got the chance to see it thanks to Disney XD, which means I'm looking at the TV version for this, and for the second time in a row, I'm eating crow. Yeah, folks, I actually kind of like this movie. It's not perfect, but I had a much better experience with this than I did with I Choose You. It felt like, well, an actual movie, and not a crappy amalgamation like I said a moment ago with I Choose You. Now, since this movie just came out in English, there are spoilers aplenty in this video. Even if I'm not doing the full summary, you'll see why in a moment. And while I won't be spoiling everything in this movie, I'll still put it up regardless. So yeah, let's begin. So in a move that legit surprised me, this film actually takes place in the same continuity as I Choose You. Funny, I thought they would have moved into the Sun and Moon anime territory, but no, here we are. And I can appreciate that, since it's something that hasn't been seen in these films since the Diamond and Pearl trilogy almost a decade ago. But legit, I really do like the story of Ash going to the Wind Festival and meeting up with the characters who later become the main cast, and then having to save the city when disaster strikes. It was pretty well written, pretty well paced, and had some really good emotional moments as well when the other main leads had their moments to shine, which I'll touch on later. And for those wondering why I'm not doing a giant plot summary of the film like I did with the other movies, Chopra's kind of a dick with copyright/content ID for the videos with the giant plot summaries in them, so I'm going to make it harder for them in the appeal process, if this does get claimed by them, by doing a non-plot summary video. But I digress. So, what's Ash and Pikachu been up to since the last movie? Well, not much, outside of potentially releasing his Charizard since we don't see it in the movie. Seriously, what the hell?
Oh, god damn it!
Not sure why they don't mention it since it's in the same continuity, but hey, that may take time away from clearly more important things, like giving these poachers screen time, or giving Margot screen time, despite her being about as important to the plot as a plank of wood at numerous points, especially in the climax. If anything, she makes the situation worse instead of better, like taking the flame away despite her reasoning, and protecting a Pokemon that tries to kill her later despite her being nice to it at points in present and past events in the film, save for one moment, which I'll touch on later. Hell, the other main cast contributes in saving the day during the climax. What does she do in the climax? She convinces Aurora to help them put out a single blaze, which frankly could have been done by Ash, especially early when you protect a Pokemon, so it's not even a unique trait she has, or a major thing she has in saving the day, since, again, Zero-R tries to kill her in the climax, so there's not much of a bond there to begin with, since, spoiler alert, those with good bonds wouldn't try to murder each other. Plus, well, it's a small area compared to the effect spore/poison surrounding the entire city, and that small area would have been put out by Lugia regardless thanks to the rain and wind it provides near the end. So yeah, great, fantastic. She was really necessary to the climax movie. But thankfully, the other main characters are a lot better and a lot more useful than Ms. Hindrance. Legit, these characters have a lot more depth, personality, and, well, a character arc to them that makes them far more interesting as characters and has way more of a payoff to them than the last couple of films, especially I Choose You, where the Brock and Misty replacements were about as interesting as plywood. As the film went on, I genuinely liked their time and chemistry with the other main characters on screen, as well as other side characters, and I ended up liking these mains by the end. Riza started off as someone only going to Fullest City to get a Pokemon, but as time goes on, we get her backstory about her injuring her leg when she was younger, and now she's concerned about running in present day because of that injury. We see her chemistry with Ash and the others, as well as trying to be a good friend/trainer to the Eevee she catches, and that's handled pretty well, coming off as really natural and nice to see on screen. And by the end, she's able to overcome her fear and was the main reason Lugia came to the town to put out the flames due to her running fast enough to get to the platform where the flame is stored, and bringing the Pokemon to her brother. In the ending bit, though, yeah, he is kind of a dick for basically not telling her that he was that guy. Callahan started off as a guy telling tall tales to make his niece happy, but even before his high and mighty facade is revealed, we see him as a good person helping out the Sudowoodo from a Golduck, attacking it, and giving it advice, as well as trying to help out Torin with presenting his research due to Torin's immense anxiety/fear when speaking. And even when the facade is found out and he was lying about pretty much everything, we still see his issues and chemistry with other characters on display, and it's executed pretty well. especially with Sudowoodo, which, side note, his capture of it was really sweet, because even after all that went down with Callahan, Sudowoodo was still there for him and wanted to help him, because he could tell that deep down, despite all the lies, he knew Callahan had a good heart. And by the end, both of them help in not only getting the power plant running again, but also getting the cure for the effect spore distributed by throwing the item, which was a nice conclusion for the guy. Going from a guy telling tall tales of being a good guy / hero to actually being a good guy and hero who helped save the town. Torrance started off being incredibly anxious / shy around people, but as the film went on, he developed more confidence in himself, and by the time he started to speak up in front of his colleagues, that was a great scene, especially after all that crap he went through prior with him getting terrified and nervous talking to people, especially during his presentation. So yeah, this was really good to see, and by the end, he's able to develop the cure for his effect spore and help save the town, which was great to see, not only because of said action, but also because of his character arc of going from a shy to a more confident person, and it had a good payoff by the end. Which leaves Harriet, and clearly her backstory can't be worse than the others. Holy shit! They just killed the Snubbull on screen! A Pokemon that clearly showed through its actions in that moment that it cared for its trainer, and as we saw through Harriet's actions earlier in the film for shooing away the Pokemon attracted to her scent because of another experiment Torrance did earlier, that this death impacted her a lot to the point of her hating Pokemon. Wow, movie, wow, you actually did it. You actually did it. You actually did it! You finally made a good and effective backstory in this new series of movies! Yes! Thank you! Seriously, thank you! This is what I was wanting from the last movie. This! Showing their actions and not telling it! We see in the beginning of this film that she's not a fan of Pokemon. We continue to see that she's not a fan and wants to be alone. And then we finally get the payoff for all that build-up with the backstory, and it explains the previous actions really well. Based on that backstory, yes, it does make sense that she would hate Pokemon because she lost one so close to her at a young age, especially when, again, they showed it and not told us it, which made it more effective to me, and she doesn't want to get close to another Pokemon because she doesn't want her heart broken again. This is something that, again, the last movie failed to do, and is why I'm happy that this film is doing it. Again, thank you! Oh, and this version also has the spirit of the Snubbull next to her in her old age after that moment, which, yeah, it's sad to see as well as touching. So yeah, big points in this movie over I Choose You in regards to that. Eat shit, I choose you. Fuck your backstory. Also, I liked her character arc of her eventually moving on from Snubbull's death and loving Pokemon again by the end, as well as helping the others save the town. Really nice touch and really great to see. And while Ash isn't as developed, he's still a decent character regardless, and showcases through actions like him saving Tyranitar and protecting the Pokemon from Zoroark's attacks that he's a good person. And yeah, outside of Margot, he's probably the least developed out of the others, but his character was still okay nonetheless. Margot, as I stated, was pretty much worthless, so let's move on to the mythical Pokemon hyped up in the material as well as the film itself, Zeraora. And oh boy. Despite this guy being hyped up as a big thing along with Lugia, this guy makes more appearances than Lugia, but ultimately makes so little of an impact on screen that it makes me wonder the point of it being included at all outside of marketing because lol, mythical Pokemon. Its hatred of humans, while recycled from other films, is fine because it does a decent job in terms of execution, but even when it decides to help our heroes, it still doesn't really do much outside of help stop that one fire and protect Pokemon. Oh, and while I'm focusing on this scene, while this is one of the few moments where Zoroark actually decides to be useful and it's all good and all, it's kind of negated by the fact that in an earlier scene he wasn't there to help get the sprinklers working, which helped put out the fire. Could have saved a lot of Pokemon too by doing that, and he wasn't there for it, even though that probably did a lot more than chopping down some trees, since it put out the fire in the area, including some of the trees. Oh, no, it's okay. Zeraora saved those guys from that one tower. It's perfectly okay. Pathetic. You suck! And to go back to earlier, no! Marketing or promotion is not an excuse. Lucario and Volcania have more of an impact / importance on the plot in their movies, and were made to promote an event or next generation. Great, now I'm getting flashbacks to Majarna from Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel and how useless she was. Great! Fantastic. That being said, Zeraora and Margot aren't the only characters I have issues with. Most of the supporting cast, save for a couple of the scientists and Callahan's niece, are either really bland or forgettable. Especially Team Rocket, who feel like they were shoehorned into the plot because nostalgia, despite not giving them a lot to do ultimately outside of stealing the effect spore and having the Lumberries. But the former could have been done by literally anyone else, and the latter could have been easily written off as just being in the lab at the time for experimentation. Especially since Torrance states earlier in the film he was working on formulas based on moves like Sweet Scent, so it's possible him making a formula off of the berries might have been a thing at one point based on these examples examples. And outside of that, that's pretty much all Team Rocket did in this movie. So yeah, the supporting cast in this isn't all that great, but the main leads are good for the most part, so at least there's that. You may have also noticed by now that the animation is different this time around when compared to the previous films. And that is because, well, it's animated by a different studio this time. Yep, this film is animated by Wit Studio, the same studio that made Attack on Titan and Ancient Magus Bride. And it looks really good. The backgrounds and lighting are really well done, the battles are fast and fluid, the character models look really nice, and even the effects are pretty good. Sorry, I must have put in footage from Gale of Darkness. Let me fix that. There we go, much better. So yeah, Wit Studio did a good job. Sorry about that odd switching quality. I don't know what that was about. Frankly, it was about as subpar as the audio, frankly. So I think I'm going to end it here. Overall, Pokémon the Movie, The Power of Us, was a big improvement over its predecessor. It had a much better story, much better pacing, better main characters for the most part with their own character arcs to it as well, and while the legendary / mythical Pokemon are still poor, same with the music and the supporting cast, this is still a film that did a decent job telling a good story about people coming together and making a difference, no matter how big or small it is, and despite their past mistakes / hardships in life. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible either. It's a 6 or 7 to me. Now in terms of ranking, this would probably rank 5th or 4th on my favorite Pokemon films list, taking Wishmaker's spot in the end for having better characters and writing than in Jirachi's film. So yeah, I finally found a film in the series that I liked after so long, and I'm really happy to say that. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and take care.